So in today's time, there is so much available for us photographers to fix images that perhaps we didn't get right in camera. Take for instance this image that was shot at blue hour or shortly thereafter, and so our light was pretty much gone. So as you can see in this image, there's all kinds of grain and noise and yuckiness, and this definitely was a throwaway. I think I only ended up editing 1 or 2 pictures from this entire session, and you can see my ISO is at 6400. I was using the 105mm at 1.4 and my shutter was 1/25 of a second. So what can we do about this? So if you take a look, like I really wanted that candlelight, but when you zoom in you can see it's really bad, right? So now though, we have so many tools at our disposal that we can completely bring this image back to life. So the first thing that we're going to do is reduce the highlights just to get rid of this warning right here. So something like that. And the next thing I really wanted to try was to go into my denoise, because if we can get a good render of using the built-in denoise, that'll really help. And if that doesn't work, then obviously we can use Topaz denoise, which is good as well. I do find, however, that the denoise in Adobe Camera Raw as well as Lightroom is really good, but you can see here that that's pretty strong, right? But look at what it's done. So we'll just reduce it a little bit, bring back some of that detail so that her skin doesn't look totally plastic, right? And I mean, that's pretty amazing. So let's go ahead and click Enhance, and I'm just going to fast forward through this because it says right here it's going to take about 7 minutes. Okay, so what it's done is it's created another DNG version of the original image. And this is the only one that I really want, but I'm not really finished manipulating it yet. So now I'm going to come into color, pull up my shadows, pull up my blacks, and pull down my contrast a bit. And now we can see that she's really starting to pop. With the new masking features, we can really focus on affecting the background individually as well as our subject, which is nice. So we've got the cool tones from the nighttime, the blue hour, as you can see here, and then we've got the warm tones from the candle, which are very complementary, so we will keep those. So the next thing that I want to do probably is pull up my whites, something like that, and you can pull the highlight down again. I'm not super concerned with the blown out warning on the candle because I think it's gonna be fine. And you could also come into your color mixer and perhaps adjust the hue on the yellows, maybe make them a little bit warmer, not quite so yellow. You just have to find the happy place. You can go to your luminance tab and pull that up as well. Maybe the oranges up a bit, and that really helps illuminate her a bit more. And I think that's pretty good. The blues, I might want to actually increase the luminance in the blues. So right now that's just showing the car in the background, and if we look at this, we're gonna sample this color, which is showing me it's in the purples. Okay, so now we're going to pull the purples up. Just gonna shut that. So we're gonna pull the purples up a bit and the blues up a bit. I actually don't want to pull the blues up because I don't want to brighten that up very much. Okay, I think that's probably it for that, and now we're going to head over to masking, and I think for this one we're going to try the background and see if it does a relatively good job at that. It's not bad. Okay, so let's reduce our contrast all the way down, pull our shadows up a bit like so, our blacks up a bit, something like that, and we're going to increase the temperature so you can decide whether you want to make it warm like that or even cool it off more, something like that. You might, if you go the blue route, you might want to add some green back in there. And that'll just kind of help make her look warmer, which is nice. Let's pull those blacks up just a bit. Something like that. I think I might want to reduce the vibrance saturation down a bit so that most of it is on her. Okay, now we're going to create a new mask. We're going to select people. And we're going to create separate masks. So I definitely want her hair. And I don't think I'm going to choose anything else actually. We could try facial skin. And we're going to create 2 separate masks. Okay, so on the hair, we're just going to pull the shadows up because we want to make it a little bit lighter. And usually I'll increase the highlights as well. All right, now let's go to facial skin, and for this one we're going to pull the shadows up a little bit. You could pull the highlights up just a bit, and then what we're going to do, and I'll zoom in to show you this, we are going to come down and reduce the, usually I would reduce the clarity, but you can see the denoise really smoothed everything out already, so probably not a good idea to do that again. So I think for this we'll just leave it, and we're going to go ahead and open this as an object in Photoshop. Okay, so this is what we're working with. So now using the tools, the brand new tools that we have in Photoshop and outside applications, we're just going to affect this image. So what I'm going to do is hit the, first I'm going to flatten it because I don't actually need to go back into Adobe Camera Raw. And then I'm going to duplicate my layer, and then I'm going to use my crop tool, and I'm just going to straighten the horizon line in the back, something like that. And I'm going to change this to Generative Expand because what I really want to do with this is I want to extend it so that, actually right there is good. I want to extend it so that we get the bottom of the dress, and I find that generative fill is actually pretty good at doing that for me. And I might actually just pull this out a bit here and perhaps here, and we'll just let it do its magic. Okay, so this is the first version that it gave us, and we're going to click on a couple of these others and just see what they brought us. Not sure what this item is. I do like what that looks like there. I feel like it's very believable. That one, I do like the ground a bit better, but I'm not a fan of that. It's not as clear. Back to the first one. I think the first one is better. I'm still not super happy with this, but we can definitely work on that. Okay, that's good. We're gonna go ahead and flatten. And what you can do with this issue with the bottom is, if you want to, you can attempt to draw a bit of a better bottom to the dress, just see what it does. I usually will put like fabric or something as a prompt, because if I put just a period or nothing, then it's going to remove it, right? And really what I want it to do is extend it down. So if you put fabric, I think it kind of knows that you want to extend it. So we'll see what it comes up with. See what I mean? It's a little bit better, but it's still not perfect. If we look at these other ones, that's definitely better. If we look at this one, that's not better. Okay, so we'll stick with this one. So now what I typically do is I go ahead and flatten it, and then I'll duplicate my layer, and I'm going to hit my crop tool again, but this time I'm going to put it back to transparent, and I'm going to pull this image down probably to about here. And then once I do that, I'm going to grab my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to actually come in and choose a place that isn't going to look too strange once I extend this. Command T, and I'm just going to pull this down, which in itself is going to elongate the bottom part of our model. All right, so something like that. And so far that's definitely looking better. So that's before and after. We're going to go ahead and flatten, And then what I want to do is go into my Liquefy tool and just kind of reshape things a bit so that it looks a little bit more seamless. Okay, so in here, I'm just going to start shaping. And this was the traveling dress project, and this was one of those dresses made out of curtains. I'll put a link in the description below. She's in Victoria, and she charges quite a bit. I think these are like $900 dresses, US. And she makes them out of old vintage lace and old vintage curtains and tablecloths and stuff like that. They're really pretty, but I personally would never pay that much money for something like this. I mean, if you're getting married, sure, but not as a wardrobe prop. Okay, so now we're going to fluff up her hair a bit more. Her hair's super curly, so this always ends up looking really nice when you do this. So something like that. And when I do this, I tend to want to stretch it all the way from inside so that it doesn't look super stretched on just one portion, like so. And then even here, if you're going to start affecting this, you have to just watch this part of the image so that it doesn't look really distorted and start to look like you used too much Liquefy. It helps if you make your brush really large, that way you're pulling the whole fence and the dress together, and then it doesn't have that individual warped look. So something like that. All right. Okay, that's good. Click OK. So you can see the before and the after. We've just done some reshaping, and I think that it looks pretty good. It's better, but not really drastically changing anything, just reshaping and making things look a little bit more seamless. So now you just have to decide what you want to do with that background. Do you want to keep the cars in, or do you want to get them gone, right? So if you want them gone, all you have to do is circle it with your lasso tool. And what I typically do is I just kind of come in like this, and all I do is put a period in because I'm giving AI the ability to determine what it thinks would look best with a fill. See how much better that looks? This is crazy, you guys. This whole tool is nuts. But I do definitely want this piece gone. So we'll run it again. And you know, when I get a render that is exactly what I wanted, I typically tend to leave it. But now I'm seeing that I find these parts of the fence kind of distracting. So let's just go ahead and get rid of them. Voila. All right, might as well grab, I'm going to go ahead and flatten this and duplicate my layer. And we are going to use our little remove tool here, and we're just going to start removing little items that are quick and easy. Now if you look over here, these are shadows from a tree that was to her left. So we're just going to use this to get rid of them. If we turn this on and off, you can see that basically all I've done is gotten rid of a lot of the distractions that were in the image. And if you zoom in, you can see what areas perhaps you need to work on a little bit more. Okay, so obviously this file was a throwaway before we applied all of these new features, right? So if we zoom in, we can see there's still grain. But what I want to do first is I'm going to go ahead and do my dodging and burning. And obviously we don't need any skin retouching because it's pretty smooth. We do need to run Topaz Denoise again, but I'm just going to put my flow down to 1 with a soft brush. And I'm just going to focus on minimizing these shadows here. So you know, you have a little bit of that vampire or monster light when you have light coming from below the face. So we're just going to work on minimizing the shadows so that it looks a little prettier. Okay, so that's before and that's after. And that's just a good start to making it look a little bit more three-dimensional or painterly, however you want to call it. But I will come in and feather out that mask, both of them. Okay, duplicate your layer. We're just going to use frequency separation just to blend those edges together. And then we'll do a little bit of either dodging and burning, or we'll see if Retouch for Me can do it for us. And so we're going to go to our low layer and we're going to grab our mixer brush, and all of this looks good. So wet and load is usually at 50 and my flow is around 22. And we're just going to zoom in and reduce your brush in little circles, and this should really help blend all those edges together, including getting rid of some of the shadows that we didn't want on the face. And if you want to learn how to use all these tools way more, then feel free to join my online platform. It's an educational platform and gives you a ton of lessons in all kinds of forms, and it's $35 a month. Okay, so this is looking better. We're going to do the same just on the skin of her arm here. Just blend those edges together. And also, if you wanted to, you could probably just very lightly come around the perimeter of her hair, because when we did run the denoise within Adobe Camera Raw, it kind of made this a little too sharp for my taste. Okay, so this is where we're at now. I'd say it looks better. So if I go before and after, that's way, way better. And now what we want to do actually is duplicate it, and we're going to put it into denoise to see if we can't get rid of some more of that noise that's still existing in the shadows. And we're also going to sharpen it and do a little bit of color toning, and we'll be done. Okay, so we're just going to pull this over because we want to see what it's doing, and we can definitely see at this point that it's over smoothed her face, because that's a better version. But what we're doing is we're looking at this noise in the shadows here. I mean, that looks good, but I still feel like it's too much, so I'm just going to click on low light and see if it gets a bit better, because an option is, of course, to just paint that onto that area there. If we click severe noise, I can still see noise here. So I think low light is our better option. And then typically what I do is I will do an inverted mask and just paint that onto the areas that I want it, as opposed to having it all over our subject. So all the noise is gone, at least the majority of it. So you could just add a mask and then grab a regular soft black brush, and you could just come in and paint this off of our subject. because sometimes it's a little too much on our subject, which is fine. Just want to make sure that everything isn't too crazy. I do want the background not to have that noise though. So just painting this off because I do want more detail in the fabric of the dress. And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? So just go ahead and feather that out. It's looking really cute, I think. So duplicate your layer. We're going to do something a little creative. Click remove background. And yes, obviously selection masks, all that stuff. Channels is a much better way to extract your subject. But when you're just doing basic little things like this, I don't find it to be completely necessary. Just click on your background, new blank layer over top. We're gonna grab a nice little smoke brush and we're going to sample one of these colors, so probably this one. We're going to reduce our flow down to about 17, and I'm just going to make that a wee bit lighter. And now when I paint this, it'll kind of be misty, foggy, creative in the background. Just to give it a little bit of atmosphere. And then once I do that, I usually come up and grab a bit of a lighter color. So, and then usually a lighter gray color. So something like that, and it just gives it a little bit more drama and mood. So you can see the difference. You can reduce it if you just want a little bit of extra like that. Okay, and that's fine. And for our reds, we're going to warm them up by adding a little bit of red, or sorry, our blacks, as well as some yellow. And that just kind of helps. You can add a little bit of magenta or green, whatever suits the image better, and just pull those blacks up a little bit. And then the neutrals we know are yellow and red, and we really don't want to affect those. If you added a bit of green, you can see how that changes the ambience of the whole image. So even if you did like a -1, pull that up just a bit. And white's definitely yellow, and pull that up just a smidge. So if we go back to our base layer, you can see how the selective color has really affected it. And one thing you can do is grab a black brush and you can just paint it off the areas in the background that you want to bring back perhaps a little bit more that cool sky blue, blue hour look. It usually will just add a little bit more interest to your image. So something like that, and feather out your mask. So that's before and after. So that's about it. The color toning, everything. The only other thing I would do is add some blush and lipstick. That would be about it for this image, guys. And that's just using all of the latest apps and the AI tools available in Photoshop and as apps to really help us bring back images that would have been throwaways in the past. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.